Nick Leaf, lands versus slivers. Welcome to Legacy.
All right, here we go.
You want to see some sliver highs and some cabinet souls and some Gale Rider slivers. That's what I'm talking about for Mr. Patraw.
A healthy amount of new content, relatively speaking, for the sliver decks. There's some good stuff in M14 and M15, and Blake's touching a little bit of it.
Verdant Catacombs to start there for Leaf. Patraw with a Tropical Island. See if he has a Vial or a Relic to play. Spells in this deck outside of the slivers: 4 Force Will, 4 Brainstorm, and 3 copies of Daze. This deck way back when was called Meat Hooks.
Really? Is that because of the art on the Stronghold slivers?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Verdant Catacombs is going to get sacrificed. You saw Leaf carefully sacrifice that. Worried about maybe Stifle, a very popular card in Legacy. But he will search up a land here in just a moment.
It gives him some information about his land drop here. Let's say it gets stifled there, then he'll probably just want to play Wasteland and take care of Blake's land. If it doesn't get stifled, I think he's better served playing Rashad Port this turn, porting the Tropical Island, setting up to Wasteland the following turn with the port still available.
It's a beautiful Guru Forest to get us started.
Yep.
I love it. Let's see what the follow-up's going to be here for Leaf for Rashad Port. Just tap down that Tropical Island. We'll pass. Here's a Brainstorm in the end step from Blake. So 3 cards added, 2 cards going to go back. There go back the 2 cards. Brainstorm does resolve. Tropical Island will be tapped on the upkeep.
The mana denial element of lands is so powerful that without Aether Vial, I think Blake's really going to struggle to cast his spells in this match.
Yeah, Wasteland's going to kill his only land now, too. So he is Brainstorm locked. He already knows the card that is coming. Just has to pass the turn back, does Patraw over to Leaf. Leaf draws a copy of Taiga. See a Maze of Ith. Some other fun toys over there for Leaf, so he's just going to pass the turn back. Patraw's going to draw a card.
Also a Tabernacle among Nick's lands in hand, which will be a challenge.
The Mighty Sliver Hive is the draw.
The mystery has been revealed.
Yep. Well, why would you have that in your deck? Oh, okay. Looks like he may tap it down with Port. So we'll take a look at Sliver Hive. See this 5-color kind of crazy land the Sliver deck can use.
Well, there's a Loam that Nick just drew, so Blake might be in the lock.
There is life in the Loam. Pick up 2 lands, Verdant Catacombs and Wasteland. We don't want to play Magic anymore.
Well, one of us wasn't playing to begin with, so why bother?
I suppose that's true.
Why keep up this charade?
The Wasteland Life in the Loam lock will put Patraw out of it very quickly. Nick Leaf does win game number 1 here with lands over slivers. To the sideboard we go. Now you're going to test your sliver knowledge. That's what we're going to do. You've got 3 Harmonic slivers, 3 Dark Heart slivers, 2 Flusterstorms, 2 Sower
Dark Heart
Temptation,
sliver is nasty.
3 Thalia, Guardian of Thraven, and then 2 copies of Relic Progenitus to go along with the 2 of the main deck. Boarding in the additional relics is pretty obvious. Thalia could be okay at making Loam cost a little bit more mana, but I think that Relic is the easiest place to start.
I don't know if I would touch anything in the sideboard besides the relics. Going after Nick's graveyard is very powerful. The opportunity cost on Relic is also very low because it just cycles in the worst case scenario. Nothing else really stands out to me. Dark Heart Sliver is nasty.
You like someone? Huh?
Someone wants to beat the burn decks.
They do not want to lose to burn, ever. Dark Heart Sliver, the old black-green sacrifice sliver, gain at 3 life.
Inspired by Dark Heart of the Woods.
Correct.
Which allows you to sacrifice a forest. On Nicholas Leaf's side, 2 copies of Dark Deaths, a Caracas, 4 Sphere of Resistance, and Crop Rotation, Primeval Titan, Pithing Needle, Ray of Revelation, 3 copies of Crozan Grip, and 1 Thorn of Amethyst. I think that if I was Nick, I'd probably bring in the Needle because it's safe to assume that Aether Vial is in Nick's deck, or excuse me, Blake's deck based on what you've seen. But I don't know if I would do any heavy sideboarding right now because you just haven't seen a lot of what's going on Blake's side of the table just yet.
Don't know if he's prepared for the Sliver matchup either.
Well, Lance is naturally very strong against creature strategies. Between Maze of Ith, the mana denial elements, Tabernacle, a Dark Depths kill, there's a lot here going on that's punishing towards creature decks as a whole. Now, the path that Blake has, and we've seen this before with Nimble Mongoose, is giving his creatures hexproof or untargetable. That really messes with Maze of Ith, which is one of the primary defensive tools that Lance has. And to that end, Crystalline Sliver might be Blake's most important sliver in the matchup.
While we do wait for game number 2 here between lands and slivers in round number 5, we will talk about SCG Game Nights, where our good friend Mr. Ooze is live for just a couple more days. Going to make it until Friday.
Only a little bit longer. We initially launched this program as Wednesday night, but we've moved that to full store discretion. So however you want to run these events, whatever day of the week, sanctioned, unsanctioned, format of your choice. Just fun, friendly magic at your local store. We give away these pins and foils. It's too late to get on board with the November kit, but if you're interested in getting on board with December, store owners, players, make sure you're talking to your store owner, StarCityGames.com/game night for more information.
Only a couple more days. Again, Friday is October the 31st, so when we do start our coverage in Oakland next week and on Saturday, it'll be time for a new game night token and a new game night pin. Don't know what it's going to be, though. It's a surprise.
Hoping for turkeys.
I am also hoping for turkeys. I will be disappointed if it's not turkey.
Yes.
We'll have to talk to the people who do things at the home office.
Well, we'll see how it is executed, you know?
Yeah.
I don't want to speak too strongly, but I do have expectations in certain places.
Blake will be on the play this game, looking for more than one land.
Yep.
That's a start. Or Aether Vial as well. There's a Flooded Strand. He'll just pass the turn back after that. Leaf will draw a card. Looks like he picked up a copy of Crop Rotation. See a Tranquil Thicket here. That'll be the first land that comes into play. Pass it back. Sacrifice the Flooded Strand, will Blake?
Looking
See what land he wants to
promising.
search.
Blake
Yeah.
might get to play a spell or two this game.
That would be really nice, wouldn't it?
Looking good.
There's a beautiful island.
APAC.
You approve?
I like that island.
Okay.
I do like that island. I think if you want to go to the Euro APAC route, there's probably one or two nicer options, but that's a fine island.
And a turn Brainstorm here from Patraw. So it's time to put a couple cards back. See some slivers all over the place here. Hope the mana works here for Blake.
Colored mana is an issue for this deck. He's stretched across all colors, so unless he has Cavern of Souls or Sliver Hive, I think he's going to struggle to cast his slivers on time.
Gonna sacrifice a Misty Rainforest. Time to go digging.
Keep in mind, on top of that, he has Mutavaults that help very little in casting anything, and dual lands, which don't really cast everything in the deck, you know, because there's slivers across 4 colors.
It's a Sinew Sliver. Time-shifted Muscle Sliver.
And there's 11, basically 11 muscle slivers in this deck.
Yep.
4 predatory, 4 sinew, 3 muscle. Predatory sliver an improvement because it only affects your slivers.
Nailed it.
So mirror match, very important that you want to have predatory sliver, not muscle sliver.
Or opposing Mutavaults.
That is, well, that could be a real thing.
Yes.
What I was talking about was a joke.
No,
But-
it sounded serious. It sounded very serious. There's a Thespian stage. Pass the turn back.
Pretty anemic start so far for Nick. No power lands, no mana denial.
Yep. See what Patraw has here. See the Mutavault in his hand. There's that.
It's a lot of damage.
Follow up. Another Sinew Sealer.
This
Sliver.
is also a lot of damage.
That's true. In for 3 now.
Look at this squad.
A motley crew of slivers here to start our day. Taiga the draw here for Leaf.
They do play well together. They make a nice team.
True. True. No argument. There's a port. Pass the turn back. No port action.
Interesting to see no porting because Nick's probably committed to porting the Mutavault if Blake makes a move to attack. So I would not want to give him the colorless mana on the main phase unless Nick had something big planned with all of his mana during Blake's turn.
There's Cavern of Souls.
I'm going to guess Sliver.
Could be naming anything. Well, Sliver is probably correct. That's a predatory. This is an attack
Jiminy.
for a lot of damage. He's going to port the Mutavault before he gets to attack, so this will be an attack for 4 and 8.
This is a lot of damage.
Yeah. I mean, it's lethal next turn. Taking the Merfolk approach.
The big cost here is your mana base is worse, you lose Island Walk. But the diversity of some of the slivers is very nice.
Yeah.
Winged Sliver, Gale Ride Sliver, Crystalline Sliver. These are elements that Merfolk does not have access to. In some matchups, those cards are going to be really powerful.
Crystalline probably the best of the bunch.
Yep. I mean, there is a problem with Merfolk where someone plays a Grid Lavamancer and you say, all right, well, this is going to be really challenging to work through. Crystalline Sliver makes it very easy to beat cards like Grid Lavamancer.
Leaf will draw a card. Copy of Life in the Loam. That's much too slow this game. There's Dark Depths. A very powerful card. So there will be a lot of counters on that thing, 10 of them. And pass the turn back.
But even making a 20-20 doesn't prevent lethal from coming across. And I do not believe he can port and Thespian stage.
I don't think so. That's the problem here, because he's got to use the 2 mana from the Thicket and the port to actually activate the stage and make a Dark Depths token.
Exactly. If he could make a blocker plus port the Mutavault, he'd be fine.
Yeah.
But I don't think he can do both things.
I think that is the big issue here.
And again, he needs to be able to stop 2 of these attackers because they're 4/4s. The Mutavault's a 5/5.
Yep.
The others are 4/4s.
Now, he does have a crop rotation in his hand, does Leaf. I'm wondering if there's a card like Glacial Chasm maybe hanging out in the main deck to search for. Even it could be in the sideboard and brought in.
There is 1 Glacial Chasm in the main deck.
Aha! Looks like we may have found our answer.
Blake with Force of Will in hand. Not sure if he has a corresponding blue card.
I think he has a Hibernation Sliver hanging out in the grip. And it looks like everybody's coming in the red zone, yeah. Crop rotation is brought forward. And this could be the plan, which is to crop rotate. And so he's going to float a mana with the Rishadan port and crop rotate. So his colorless mana floating. Crop rotation will resolve. There's the Chasm. As you know, with Glacial Chasm, it doesn't tap for mana.
Exactly. So he still doesn't have the 2 mana necessary to Thespian stage the Dark Depths.
Not to mention, when Glacial Chasm comes into play, you have to sacrifice a land. All part of the cost. So there goes the Thicket, and this is all just to keep him alive. So he's not going to take any damage. And you see the cast of creatures you control can't attack and prevent all damage to be dealt to you. So had that been Force of Willed, and it doesn't look like, I thought he may have a Hibernation Sliver in his hand. I'm not entirely sure, don't have a great look at it. At the end of the day, the Chasm's in play. And there's Community of Upkeep, going to pay 2 life to keep that in play. And he might actually be able to work his way towards Dark Depths here.
Well, it's going to be challenging unless he's able to cheat mana somehow. The big problem is, how's he ever going to get the 2 mana in play plus the Thespian Sage tap to be able to do something?
And start by playing a Taiga.
Because for now, he's just treading water.
Yep.
The other issue here is now Blake, now that the Glacial Chasm is in play, Blake can simply go ahead and pass the turn with 5 mana up and Force of Will some sort of Mox Diamond, or if he's trying to generate mana in some other way.
Well, I think he's okay, right? Because now the next turn, so he pays the upkeep again on the next turn. He goes down to 5, and he just plays a land, activates the stage, makes a 20/20.
And he can let the Chasm go on his upkeep and attack.
And attack.
Which means that Blake really needs a Flying Sliver.
Yes.
And then he'll be okay.
Winged or Gale Rider would be certainly fine right now.
Surprising to see Blake not fight over the Mox Diamond, because any mana is valuable for Nick at this stage.
Hey, you got to Force of Will something.
It's possible that Nick had no mana producing lands in hand. If his hand's something like Tabernacle, Maze of Iths, then that Mox Diamond's really important.
Don't get a great look at the draw. Looks like it may have been a Mutavault. I think we might have a 20/20 coming.
If Blake was able to find one of his Flying Slivers, I think he'd be okay here. He would have enough to block a Merit Lage token and attack for lethal on the way back.
And I thought at one point he had a Hibernation Sliver in his hand, but it looks like that is not the case. So he's going to tap 3 mana here. Going to play a Harmonic Sliver. That's going to go up to the Mox Diamond.
But I think that Blake needed to just Force of Will this Mox Diamond last turn.
Yeah. And so that's fine, doesn't matter. I've got enough mana to activate my stage to make a 20/20. And I have a feeling that's what we're going to see Nick Leaf do. So there's 2 mana plus activation of Thespian Stage, and that is going to do it. Nick Leaf is going to win this match over Blake Patraw. 2-0 lands here in Minneapolis is 5-0.
Very punishing towards creature strategies, and Sliver's no different. There's some cosmetic changes, and sometimes, hexproof / untargetable can be good against lands against certain draws, but For Nick, no fuss, no muss. Lots about a mana game 1 and was able to set up Glacial Chasm plus Merit Lage token game 2.
Deck has always been pretty good against creature strategies, especially against creatures that don't have anything like Hexproof or Shroud.
Yeah.
You know, you're pretty good against stuff like that. Nimble Mongoose has always been a problem for the land strategy. Can't Maze of Ith that one. But the other thing about lands, too, is that if you think about lands from many years ago, you know, you have to win in very unorthodox ways. Barbarian Ring, maybe play Intuition in your deck. Just some pretty mediocre to bad cards. But that's not the case anymore. You've got Dark Depths that you can find along with Thespian Stage. You can close the game very quickly now.
And Thespian Stage provides utility beyond comboing with Dark Depths. I think that's something that people lose sight of if they haven't seen this deck in action. Copying Maze of Ith, copying Rashad Import,